Now, these are just rough guidelines as far as dosage. This has to be done individually. You know, you really have to kind of know yourself. If you are somebody that's very sensitive to sedatives, you know, if a quarter of a hydrocodone puts you to sleep for 4 hours, you're going to want to start with a very, very low dose of CBD. If you're somebody that is not very sensitive and needs, you know, a higher dose typically of things to get the therapeutic effect, you're going to maybe need to go up more quickly. So this is just kind of rough guidelines. This is not medical advice. I'm just trying to give, you know, like a starting point that then you can kind of adapt it for yourself. So I did this over 14 days. So I think, you know, if you want to try it, I think 14 days is kind of the bare minimum to see if you are going to get effects from it. But ideally, you take it for about 28 days before deciding one way or another if it's giving you benefit. Now, of course, if it gives you a side effect right away and you're like, oh, I don't like this, makes me feel bad, of course, you don't have to like gut it out for 28 days to, if it causes you a negative effect, stop it. So here's a reasonable way to start. So start with like 4 milligrams in the evening. I do the evening because it's somewhat sedating for some people. Like a glass of wine can make you feel a little bit sleepy, a little bit relaxed. So you're not going to want to start it first thing in the morning. And then, so until you know how your body reacts to it, I think starting it in the evening and giving yourself a day or two at that dosage, then going up to 8 milligrams in the evening, then 16 milligrams in the evening. And if that's good for you, if you're like, oh, like if my patient that the 5 milligrams helps her to sleep, if that's kind of the right amount for you, stay there. You don't have to keep going up. But if you're not noticing the benefit that you want, then you can keep going up. So you're increasing by about 4 milligrams every 2 days. That's like a reasonable pace. And this is actually a pretty slow pace. This is like a fibro-friendly pace. You can absolutely go faster than this. And then, you know, day 7 and 8, you can add a small morning dose, do that for a few days, then a small afternoon dose, and then working your way up. The max is kind of 30 to 33 milligrams, 3 to 4 times a day. So your max total dose is going to be about 120 milligrams. If you're at that and you're not noticing any benefit, then it's not likely that it's going to help if you just keep going up. As we saw in my little informal study there, usually it was around the 40 to 45 milligram dosage. So I have a lot of patients that will end up at kind of the 15 milligrams 3 times a day. That's kind of a typical. So a dopper full, like a whole dopper full in here is 33 milligrams. So if you do a half, it's going to be 16, quarter, it's going to be 8, an eighth is going to be 4. I can do fractions up here. Gosh. And when you're using the liquid, like the oil-based tinctures, you really want to put it under your tongue, hold it there for 30 to 60 to 90 seconds, basically as long as you can, and then swallow the rest. So then you're getting a good amount kind of under your tongue into your bloodstream, and then swallowing the rest, and the rest gets absorbed through your GI tract. Let me just say that my experience with trying a lot of the CBD tinctures out there were also why I decided to make this, because I thought most of them tasted really disgusting. Because they tried to like sweeten it, so it had like a stevia, you know, that really, really sweet stevia flavor, or they had different artificial flavorings in it. There was one that was like lemon that made my mouth feel like it was on fire, and I just, a lot of the flavoring seemed to be really, to me, distasteful. So I actually found that what I liked better were just unflavored ones, so just derived from the plant itself. Mine is mixed with a medium chain triglyceride coconut oil, and it has an earthy taste, I will say that, but I prefer that. I personally prefer that to the stevia or that artificial sweet flavor. But if you don't like the flavor, if you're really like, that's not gonna go anywhere near my tongue, one trick is that you can get like peppermint essential oil and just put one drop in one bottle of the Frida Botanicals tincture, and it's really nicely mint flavored, and it's not sweet. It's just a minty flavor. So the question is, do some people take longer to respond to CBD? Yes, absolutely. I think typically people see something within about 10 to 14 days, but it can take a while to get up to the effective. So yes, some people notice effects right away, and some people, it's more of a slow build. One of the effects of CBD on the body is it has some anti-inflammatory effects, and the anti-inflammatory effects seem to be the part that kind of has the slow build. So the anti-anxiety effects of CBD will be, if it's going to help you with that, you'll notice it pretty quickly. If it's going to help with sleep or insomnia, you're going to notice that pretty quickly. But if you're looking for kind of pain relief, same kind of pain relief you might get from an anti-inflammatory, that takes a little bit longer. So I think giving it 2 to 3 weeks to kind of judge. For me personally, I find CBD effective as a muscle relaxant, and that effect you kind of notice pretty quickly.